What's up, everybody, and welcome to One Man's Opinion. And tonight we're talking about number 2 of our 3 horror slasher classics, Friday the 13th. And yes, we are talking about the 1980 original directed by Sean Cunningham. Now, I know typically I start off with the negatives for a video, but there is something I have to mention about the original Friday the 13th. It's not technically a negative. There's no Jason Voorhees in the original Friday the 13th. Now, this movie doesn't get any minuses because Jason isn't in it, because this was the first Friday the 13th movie. There was no Jason at this point, so you can't take points away from a movie that didn't have a Jason. Not like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which has no Michael Myers and really doesn't have anything to do with the first 2 Halloweens. And yes, I understand that story was supposed to be done. I don't care. You had Michael Myers. Use Michael Myers. If you're going to make a movie that isn't about Michael Myers, don't put it under the Halloween franchise name. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch does get all of the minuses for not having Michael Myers. It gets all of the negatives. Friday the 13th, the original 1980 version, does not get any minuses for not having Jason. But I just wanted to talk about Jason a little bit. It's not fair that he doesn't get to be in this conversation because the next video I'm doing is on the original Halloween, and we don't have a chance to talk about Jason any, so I'm going to talk about him just a little bit because Jason is just so cool. I mean, of all the slasher film guys, look, I love Freddy. We talked about Freddy last week. I love Freddy. The idea behind Freddy is so smart. It's such an intelligent character. Freddy has all the personality in the world, and it's just so great. It's just so great to watch Robert Englund dive into Freddy Krueger. It's just so much fun. But Jason is a killing machine. He is the definition of a monster, an unstoppable force. When he totes around that machete, that hockey mask is so iconic. Oh, it's just so awesome. I love it. And so I'm super upset that I don't get to talk about Jason more, but I had to at least mention the guy. I mean, the franchise wouldn't be what it is without Jason. It would have never made it. But anyway, I had to have a moment to kind of fanboy out there for a second because he's just so cool. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk about Friday the 13th and not mention Jason? Get out of here. I'm not going to do that. All right, with that out of the way, though, no minuses to the overall score of Friday the 13th because Jason wasn't there. Not going to do that. So anyway, into Friday the 13th. And we will start off with some of the negatives. And there are a few, okay? Friday the 13th is not a perfect movie. Is Friday the 13th the beginning of an awesome franchise? The beginning of one of the most iconic horror characters that we've ever been given? Yeah, certainly. It is those things. But Friday the 13th, the original, it's not a perfect film. It might not even be an awesome film. It's a great film for what it is. Nostalgically, looking back, it's a great film. I think Friday the 13th is better now than it was when it came out. And the reason being because Jason isn't in it. So if I introduce you to the Friday the 13th series, chances are you would already know who Jason is. Jason is such an iconic character that everyone knows who Jason is. Everyone knows the hockey mask. And so if I introduce you to Friday the 13th and you were watching that film, you would actually have the shock of it not being Jason at the end. Jason not being the killer. And I think that actually could work in the movie's advantage because I know as a kid, the first time I saw it, and I got in so much trouble when I was a kid and I saw this movie. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. I do remember how much trouble I got in for watching this movie. It was an R-rated movie, and I was not allowed to watch those. I watched it at a cousin's house. Hey, Sawyer, if you're watching. I watched it with my cousin Sawyer. My older brother Dakota was there. Hey, Dakota, if you're watching. I watched it over there. My older brother got in trouble for letting me watch it. I was in trouble. I think Sawyer might have gotten secondhand trouble for being the one who let us watch it. We were at his house. I don't know. Maybe he didn't. But I know that I got in a lot of trouble for watching this movie. But I say all that to say this. As a kid watching the movie, the whole time I thought I was going to see Jason. And then at the end, it's his mom. And you get like just a few seconds of Jason as this zombie kid at the very, very end. And so I think retroactively, this movie is actually better in hindsight than it is if you were sitting in the theater in 1980. That's not necessarily a negative. You can't knock off points for Jason not being in it. But you also can't add points because it looks better looking back than it might have at the time. Oh my goodness, I just had a heart attack. I'm doing all these horror movies. I'm watching a lot of horror stuff, and then my dog starts barking outside, and with these on, I can't hear well. It sounded like a knock at the door, and I had a panic attack. Sorry. You also can't add points to it because future people won't know that Jason isn't in it. So like you can't add or take away for Jason's absence, if that makes sense. So on to the actual negatives of the movie. And honestly, it's the kills. The kills there are three good on-screen kills. One of them you only kind of see happen, and then there's one off-screen kill that's decent, and the rest are either totally off-screen or they are POV kills, but they're not good. So let me explain. Two POV kills, that means point of view from the killer. The camera is like walking forward to someone who's trying to talk to the killer. Oh, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, what's going on? And they're trying to talk to the killer and the killer never talks back. And then the killer just gets really close, like up on the camera. And then all of a sudden the guy who the killer is killing will be like, oh, and will like step back and will have like blood on their stomach. And that happens like twice in the movie. You don't even like see the stab, like, so it's literally just like a close up and then and dead guy. And then there's the other kill at the very beginning, which is just like a slow motion freeze frame and then fade to white. So that's not a good kill. And then you have, I think, at least three more off-camera kills in the movie where like you might hear a scream or you see someone like go into a cabin and then like later you'll see their dead body, but you don't see the kill happen. One of those I give a pass because you see like arrows all in the guy and he's like pinned to the door and his throat slit. It's at least a cool visual and you don't expect it and it's kind of a good scare. His body's just hanging there on the door and you didn't know that he died. And so that one I give a pass to. But the girl at the archery range and then there's another one. There's another off-screen kill. Oh yeah, there's a guy. The first one of the first kills in the movie, not counting the two at the very beginning. I think he's actually the second kill in the movie if you don't count the two at the very, very beginning of the movie. He's found later on top of Kevin Bacon's bunk bed, and he's just dead. That one happens off camera too, and it's there's nothing to it. His throat's like slit or something. He's just laying up there. And so the kills in this movie suffer. I say that also acknowledging that the other kills in this movie are very cool. And I would say that three kills are iconic. At least two definitely iconic. One really got me a lot as a kid, so it's a big deal to me. But so the kills are kind of a negative. And the story is good. The writing is good. But I thought they could have done a little bit more. So it's like a murder mystery almost. You don't know who's killing all the campers. I think it would have been cool if you would have been introduced to Mrs. Voorhees earlier in the film and kind of had more mystery, like, oh, she might be the killer, but so might a few other people that you had actually met. Because unless I'm mistaken or misremembering, and I did touch up on this a little before I started this video, but unless I'm just missing something, Mrs. Voorhees isn't in the film at all until the very end. And it's just like, oh, hi, I'm this sweet old woman, but I'm also the killer. And it's like, I think it could have been done better if you would have been introduced to Mrs. Voorhees earlier on. Maybe a couple more characters, not just Mrs. Voorhees, but a couple of more characters that could have been suspects. And then those suspects slowly whittle down until at the very end you realize it's Mrs. Voorhees. I think the moment could have had more weight because as it stands, you're just like, oh, it's this old lady, middle-aged lady. And now she's going to explain why she's doing it all. And I think it loses some impact that it could have had you been previously introduced to her before and just thought she was a sweet old lady. And then it's like, no, it was her the whole time. What? That could have been cooler to me. So I think those are the biggest negatives for me in this film. There are a lot of positives. And so let's dive into some of the positives. First of all, scariness. It's a horror movie. Let's talk about the scares. As you age and you watch a whole lot of scary movies, especially ones that you had seen several times, it's hard to put yourself in that mindset. It's hard to make yourself afraid again. Now, granted, you watch this movie home by yourself in the dark. you could get a little jumpy. The score is really good. The music, there's a lot of tension in this film, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat very well. And if you really put yourself into the mind of the first time that you saw it, whether you were a child or a teenager or maybe a young adult or maybe you've never seen it, but if you really put yourself into that mindset of when you first saw it, I think you'll recall that it is a tense movie and there are a lot of good scares. There are a lot of good moments to it. And the score, the music, does an excellent job, kind of putting you on edge. You're a little uneasy. So there are a lot of positives there. Specifically, Kevin Bacon's girlfriend. I say girlfriend. It's his love interest. Kevin Bacon's love interest. When she gets axed to the head, she takes that axe to the head. That was the one that stuck with me as a kid. And maybe it was something different for you. That's fine. But for me, it was her getting axed, and you don't even fully see that kill. So like you see her like do this, and then like a light above her gets hit as the axe comes down. It kind of shakes, and then it cuts to her, and the axe is in her head. And the prosthetic work, the makeup work, it's really good. It looks really good. The axe is buried in. You've got like the skin broken, good blood coming down. You can't really see the seam or anything. It looks really good. And as a kid, that was the one that kept me up. That was, nights later, I was having trouble getting to sleep because I was thinking about that axe to the head. It was just, it's the one that got me. So that's the one that stuck with me. But there are two really iconic kills in this movie. Other than that, the other two kills are number one, Kevin Bacon. One of his early roles. I don't think it was his first one. One of his earlier roles. Kevin Bacon is laying back in bed. His girlfriend has just walked out of the room. It's before she dies. He lays back in bed, and Mrs. Voorhees' hand just comes out from under the mattress and just like grabs his head and holds him down. And you see the skin start to poke through as an arrow is just from the underside of the bed. An arrow is just forced through his throat, and the blood starts spurting out, and it looks really good. Now, this one, if you look closely and you've seen it a couple times, you'll notice that you can see the prosthetic. You can see that the skin tone of the dummy's neck isn't quite the same tone as Kevin Bacon's head. And so there's a little bit of a flaw there, but wow, not even counting that as a negative because it's just, number one, it's such an iconic kill. Number two, you're not going to notice that the first couple of times you see it because it's so clever. It's such a creative kill. You don't see many kills like that at all, just from under the mattress with an arrow. Realistically, it's probably not the most effective way to kill somebody. It probably wouldn't be the best idea to try to kill somebody, but for the movie purposes, it's fun. It looks good. It's a really good kill. Oh, also, a little trivia fact for you. There was a mechanism that was supposed to spurt the blood after Kevin Bacon gets stabbed, and it malfunctioned. And so on the second take, they had to have another guy up under the bed with like a tube or a straw or something to just blow the blood out. So you see that blood kind of spurting out and bubbling a little bit. It's actually because somebody is up under there just with a tube, just blowing the blood out. I don't know. It's just an interesting little tidbit for you. The other super iconic kill is the slow motion beheading of Mrs. Voorhees at the end of the film, and that one actually looks really cool to me. I don't care. I don't care if it looks fake to you. That's fine. It's 1980. They're using a lot of physical effects, a lot of real stuff. It looks really cool to see the head get lopped off, and you've got like you can see the arteries and the blood spurting, and Mrs. Voorhees' hands just kind of like grasping at air as her body goes down. It's an iconic kill. It looks great. I love it. And the slow motion in this instance actually works pretty well. It might be drug out just a little bit, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. The only other positive I can really give it is the death of Bill Brown, who is the last person to die other than Mrs. Voorhees. And he's the love interest to our main character, or at least he's the love interest to the chick. And I can't remember her name. But the chick who survives at the end, he's her love interest, and I believe his name was Bill Brown. He dies off screen, which is unfortunate, but when you find his body, it's pinned to a door by a bunch of arrows, and he's got a slit throat, and it's a really cool visual if you don't expect it. It's a good scare. It's kind of out of nowhere. The tension has really built at that point. A lot's happening very fast. So there's a lot of good stuff. Oh, I do need to mention, though, the lady who dies at the archery range, it's an off-screen kill as well. I was thinking, as I was watching that, because when you find her body, it's literally thrown through a window, like Mrs. Voorhees, a middle-aged, at least a middle-aged woman, probably in her early 50s, throws a female's dead body through a window. Like, this chick, so, as far as we know, died at the archery range. There's probably a pretty good walk from the archery range to that cabin. So, like, she she carried a dead woman's 120-pound maybe body from the archery range to a cabin and then threw it through a window. Like, Mrs. Voorhees is jacked, dude. I mean, maybe that's not that tough. Maybe, maybe it wouldn't be so tough for a middle-aged woman to carry a 120-pound dead body, so far. But, throwing it through a window, that seems like a tall task. I don't know. It's just always been funny to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, I've never thrown a dead body through a window. Maybe dead bodies go right through windows. You tell me down in the comments. Do you know if dead bodies go right through windows very easily? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your information. Also, leave your address so I can send the police to your house, because if you know that, you've probably done something illegal. Anyway, I'm not going to take too much more of your time. The bottom line is there's a couple of story beats I felt could have been done a little better. There's some kills that certainly could have done a little better, but the tension is good. The scares are good. It's an iconic film, and you can't take anything away from it for what it is. And it is a really good film. And it did kick off a big franchise. And yeah, I know you're not supposed to go back and add points, because at the time they didn't know they were kicking off a franchise. But man, Friday the 13th is just, it's so great. It's so iconic. What a great film. Are there things that could have been done better? Yes, I think there are. And that's why this is not going to get the best score in the world. But the original 1980 Friday the 13th, I'm giving an 83 out of 100. Okay, thanks for watching. Remember, if you liked what you saw here, go down in the comments, leave me something. Let me know your thoughts on the original Friday the 13th. Maybe you disagreed. A lot of you are going to probably think that I lowballed, because it is the OG. It's the original. I get it. Look, maybe an 83 is a little low. If you disagree, let me know. Just please don't get mad. Remember, it's just one man's opinion. And look out for the next one dropping on Halloween Day. Halloween. Thanks.